you'd have a hard time spotting his secrets when they're mostly sleight of hand. Here's a look at the NECA Defenders of the Earth number 4, Mandrake, the Magician. This dapper, sophisticated magician is more adept at hypnotic deception than anyone on Earth. Mandrake is the ultimate authority on anything involving magic or the supernatural. He has called upon his fellow defenders to penetrate the enemy using incredible powers of mental supremacy, deception, and the occult. Who could have guessed the resident expert in the supernatural would have been then the most natural fit for the defenders? Before, though, we get a closer look at the Defenders of the Earth, Mandrake, the magician, the master of illusion, let's take the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. This figure was released in 2022, so it's about 3 years late that we're looking at it. Actually, though, I'm waiting for a whole bunch of stuff to arrive in the mail. I thought this then would be a good time to go back and look at some of the stuff that's been sitting around. Take, though, the tape measure, as I shall. Take it right to the very top of Mandrake's head. The magician is standing at about 6 3/4 inches in height, translating, though, to a figure that's about 17 centimeters tall. I'm so sorry for breathing all over you. I'm going to have to, unfortunately, breathe a little bit more. Says somebody in the back of the crowd. Hey, it keeps me alive. As I get some more of the breath out of my mouth, just to tell you guys, here's what the figure looks like with the colleague of the Defenders of the Earth, the Phantom. Now, NECA 3 years ago did release 2 versions of Defenders of the Earth, the Ultimate line that we're looking at right now with Mandrake, and then they also released a Galoob toy line inspired figure line, which just happens to be the example I have because I couldn't find the other whereabouts of Flash Gordon. But here's the Flash Gordon, though, from the Galoob version of Defenders of the Earth. Figure-wise, all 3 of them are roughly about the same, maybe Phantom's just a tad bit taller. This mouth breather also wants to tell you that the figure of Mandrake does come included with 7 accessories. The figure does have 3 swappable hands, for example, so on the ends of his forearms, the figure does have closed fists. Don't like the look of closed fists. You'd like to jazz them up just a little bit. Well, the figure does have a gestured hand, a dynamic hand, a cool magic spelling hand that can easily then be swapped out. You can see the peg on the end of it. Just pop the hands on the ends of the forearms off and then just replace them with the following hands. That one, or perhaps these as well. Now, these would belong on this side of the figure's body. This one would then belong on this side of the figure's body. This one would be then for holding the wand. This one would be holding the pistol. Pew pew. To swap out the hands, though, simple fix, just grabbing on the hands that he already has, just wiggle them back and forth. Don't yank it, whatever you do. That's a no-no, just in case you're going to break the peg. Wiggling, though, works a little bit better. Just pop the hand that you want to use off, or you don't want to use off. Pop the hand then you want to use, pop that back in place. Just, again, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. You don't have to wiggle, but you want to wiggle the fist. I don't know why somebody's wiggling in the background. Do the exact same on the other side here as well. Pop the new hand in place. Boy, that seemed easy. It was easy. I like to think it was pretty easy. Okay, so the other things the figure does also come included with is his pistol. Up to this point, the other figures that we've already had a look at came included with very much somewhat of similar looking gun. It looks like a Decepticon would have transformed into this. Oh, I don't know if I should be holding this. What a useless, really, alt mode when you think about it. Megatron could turn into a gun. Congratulations. Your mode had to then be carried around by one of your cronies. Made no sense whatsoever. But the gun itself, I do like the way they've done it here in, I don't think that this was done in VAC chrome, but certainly done in a very nice metallic purple. This can then go into this figure's hand because, of course, he does have the trigger firing finger hand over here. But just before we do that, he also does have a couple of blast effects. He has this one right here, and I think both with this and this, these have probably been shared before with maybe a Predator figure because they look very similar. Translucent, kind of a bluish plastic. There's a hole on the end right here. And you basically just put it on the end of the nozzle. Hey, that is easy. It is easy. Come on, guys. Come on. There's also this one as well, which I think is probably one that has been used with a Predator before. And just swap it out with this. Pop that on the end. And now you have a much longer beam. Now, this can then fit into his hands. Seems like a bit of a tutorial now we're doing. Are we getting into the review? We're going to get into the review. There we go. Put that into his hand. Don't point that at me. Over here. Over here. Yeah, so you can have the figure displayed with that. On the other hand, though, literally, the figure does also come included with his magic cane. I think it actually does even say in the packaging, his magic cane. It's pretty a magic cane, too. It's got a little jewel on the end of it. Is that a real diamond? I don't think so. It's painted well, though. You can see, like, even just this little tiny band of gold's been added in there as well. Now, I was thinking of this. Could you have taken these effects and attached them onto the end? Well, they don't fit, unfortunately, on the side that probably would be emitting the magic. But you could, though, loosely though, very loosely, you can attach onto the end of the wand that way. It's not intended that way, so please don't write down below in the comment section, hey buddy, that blast effect is supposed to be intended for the pistol. I know that. But that, if you wanted to though, you could fit that at the end of it. Unfortunately though, with my wand, not the real one that I own in my closet, oh, I'm already starting to say too much. This wand, unfortunately, with the very little time I've put it in Mandrake's hands, unfortunately I've started to flake the plastic away, the paint. So you can see there's a scrape mark right there, and there's a scrape mark right around there as well. But this can also fit into his hands. Just, be careful. Just be careful. Don't want to scrape it too far. But I think displaying this guy on the shelf, I'm going to display him with more, I think, the cane than the pistol. The blaster just doesn't seem like it's fit for Mandrake. My personal opinion, though. Let's go remove the accessories. We'll just kind of put them off to the side here and get a closer look at Mandrake. Now, for being a figure that's 3 years old, I think that's still a nice-looking figure. Now, again, I had already said, there was a bunch of stuff I'm waiting for in the mail, so I was looking around to see, what I could review for this week, and, I started to kind of look around my office, and I saw a stack of Defenders of the Earth figures. I had already looked at Flash Gordon and the Phantom, and also Ming and the Merciless. Feel free to go back and watch those reviews if you want. Thank you. Thank you for that. I thought that would be a good time to go back and finish off the rest of the set. Mandrake the Magician, though, for a head sculpt looks really good. It doesn't really have to either belong in the Defenders of the Earth, so if you're not familiar at all with the cartoon series, don't do that. Just have this guy displayed on the shelf as a really neat-looking magician. The thing that's neat about this magician is, while unfortunately he doesn't have removable hats, no, it doesn't come off, he does, though, have a fabric cape. And on top of that, alakazam, the figure does also have a wire. How'd you do that? There's a wire. It wasn't me. There's a wire right here, there's a wire right here, and there's a wire right here. Between those three things, actually that's not true, there's not a wire right in the middle, but there's one here and here, promise. You can actually manipulate the cape if you want. And, again, you can just have this displayed any which way that you want. That looks kind of cool. I did so very little effort in order to get that look going. The vest looks good too. I feel like there's some dark areas on the top. Now, obviously, this part is more intended to be a burgundy than the lighter color down below. I wish the color of the red was a little bit more in jive with the coloring of the interior of the cape. But other than that, I think the red is pretty close. It's got a nice little handkerchief painted on the side. I think even the buttons themselves have been painted well. It looks like the individual buttons. Get your finger out of the way. Sorry. The buttons right here seem to be a different color from the rest of the shirt around it. So they went in there and they spent a fair bit of time on it. Now, the jacket, though, is not a separate piece, though. It's all molded here to the rest of the vest, so you can't lift this up. Maybe you can. Maybe it's just glued down below. Maybe it is a separate piece. Because you can certainly open it here from the top. You can't do it down below here. There probably is just a mild bit of adhesive. Part of me is almost even tempted just to pry this a little bit away. Oh, I know what's only going to happen is I'm going to rip this, I'm going to tear this part of the plastic, and then I'm going to cry. Panda tears. I won't do that. You can see as well, there's the sleeve cuff for the shirt underneath. It's a well-painted figure. The lower half of his body, though, seems to be a more shinier black than the top of his top here. But, it is, though, a nice coloring of black that they chose. There's the tails there on the back of his jacket as well. I can't help but, though, feel like Mandrake. His legs seem like they're maybe a little too short. He scales okay with the likes of Phantom and Flash Gordon, but I feel like, though, I don't know, his legs maybe make him look a little stumpy when you're looking at the proportions of him. Am I the only one that maybe feels that way? Okay, I'm the only one that feels that way. For the figure's articulation, Mandrake's head is going to be on a ball joint, so it allows the head to rotate all the way around. It can look down only that far. It can look up a lot better, and you can also rock it back and forth as well. The upper torso is going to be, in theory, on a ball joint. You can't move it around too much, though. Looks down a little bit, it looks up, and again, I'm almost talking as if this is the head of the figure, but it also can move back and forth, and yeah, you can rotate it too. Shoulders do allow the figure's arms to come out, but they don't come out at fully a 90-degree angle bend. In fact, actually, this figure still continues to have super tight joints. Not to the point where I worry that something's going to break on it, but right around here, I can't seem to get any more than a 45-degree angle bend. It's not to say it doesn't exist that you can bend a little bit further, but with the risk potentially being there that I'm going to break the peg, I'm more than happy just to settle on 45 degrees and not 90. The arms, of course, can rotate all the way around. The figure does have a slight swivel here where the double hinges start to work. There's a hinge here at the top where that meets the bicep, and then if you look a little bit further down, there's a hinge get your finger out of the way. There's a hinge right there, right by the arms, and can double bend right there. Hands rotate all the way around as well, whether you want to use these hands, you want to stick with the closed fist that he started with. Legs split out, no issues there. You take the legs and move them forward. You can move them back. Mild swivel there at the top of the thigh. Single hinge knee. Low rotation down below on the lower calf area. Ankle rocks back and forth. Ankle pivots too. And the figure does also have pegals on the bottoms of his feet, even though the figure doesn't really come included with a display stand. Nice overall figure, though. For a while, this guy's been sitting in a cardboard prison, just waiting to be unleashed. You would think, though, as being a magician, he would already have a spell to, to free himself from any available trap he's been put into. But still, though, he's a nice-looking figure. Quite a dapper-looking magician, too. For the fact that this figure is 3 years old, 2022, it got released, and now the guy behind the camera is finally looking at them. The fact that this guy has had even a wireframe fabric cape is a nice touch. The head sculpt looked good. The coloring on the face, and as well as the vest and the jacket and all the pants, even like the spats, which I know I didn't really spend too much time even talking about his, not spats, but his real fancy shoes. Look at the fancy footwear this guy actually has. And also, too, I forgot to mention, this guy does also have toe articulation. That's probably one of the reasons why I wanted to go back and look at his feet. Yeah, Mandrake is a nice looking figure. Not only are we also going to be looking at him, but we also going to be looking at Lothar in an upcoming review. And you never know, I might also look at Garax. I seem to be in the mood right now of Defenders of the Earth. 3 years too late, granted, but still, it's a fine figure line that I don't think it's overly expensive either. So if you wanted to go back and try to track down the figures, you probably could at a decent price too. Presto changeo, now posed with magic cane in hand. Mandrake the Magician. I may have even said in this review he wasn't part of the original Galoob 1986 toy line that followed up the cartoon series. If I did, that's incorrect. Both Mandrake the Magician and Lothar, the strongest man on Earth, were actually both featured in the 80s toy line. Yet, though, I think when it comes to the figure releases of them, NECA only went as far as to release them in the Ultimate figures. As far as I know, they never ended up doing them in the retro card backs. So if you are, as a collector, that only want to really get the ones that are connected to the original Galoob toy line, source out maybe the idea of getting the Master of Illusion Mandrake and Lothar through the Ultimate figures instead. Now, I haven't checked online. I can't tell you whether or not the prices have skyrocketed on these figures, and if in fact they are going for crazy stupid prices. If he isn't, I would certainly encourage picking up Mandrake the Magician. Connecting and disconnecting him altogether from the Defenders of the Earth, he's a nice looking figure. He would stand in really well with like the Universal Monster figures that maybe you're collecting already. In fact, speaking of Universal Monsters, I'm sure you could probably also 86 the head of Mandrake. I'm not really sure what you're going to be doing with a decapitated head, but you probably could use the body maybe for another figure, like maybe along the lines of Dracula. But what do you guys think of Mandrake the Magician? Have you originally collected the Defenders of the Earth? I know, again, we're a little late on the game of this. This came out in 2022. Anybody looking at a calendar, outdated or otherwise, would tell you that's 3 years. And it was a while ago, in fact, I started these reviews. What can I say? I'm a little bit of a procrastinator. But we're finally looking at these. Now that we're wrapping up, of course, the review of Mandrake, we're going to be following up then the review of Lothar and the evil robot Garax. If you guys did enjoy this video, you can do it us all and certainly throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Hit that subscribe, turn on that bell, and of course, come back. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.